Okay, let's see here. Just getting all set up. I want to make sure it's focusing on the right spot too. Okay. Hello, single person who has joined my live. Welcome. Okay. All right, I'm getting my other camera set up because I'm going to be filming this while I'm going live. So I've got my dough here. It has been in the freezer for about an hour and 15 minutes. This is an 80% hydration dough. Oh, some stuff stuck to it. I think it's a little bit overproofed. I'm really having to adjust the proofing time because the temperature here has been very, very hot. We're in the middle of a heat wave right now. So you can kind of tell that the dough has sunk in a little bit, like this, the bubbles look a little bit kind of deflated. So I can anticipate that I'm probably not going to get a whole ton of rise out of this. I'm not overly concerned about that. I never really am overly concerned. I like overproof doughs. I find there's a bit more flavor, the texture is good. As always, the texture is going to be better with an overproof dough than an underproof dough. So like I said, it was in the freezer for an hour and 15 minutes. It's an 80% hydration dough. And we'll see how this goes. I've got a couple designs that I sketched out just before going live. So I'm gonna let you guys kind of provide feedback on which one you prefer. This particular dough was I really shouldn't have gone with 80%, again, because we're in a heat wave and my flour struggles to handle anything higher than like 75% unless I'm able to develop it over a longer period of time, which I was not because it proofed so quickly due to the heat. So I'm just gonna get off some of this old rice flour here. And I am gonna dust it with rice flour. I'm just kind of tucking it in a little bit just to create a little bit more surface tension on the top of the dough. And also just so it doesn't splay quite so quickly because with my decorative scores, they take time. If you're enjoying this, please give me a thumbs up. I think you have to tap the 3 dots and then do a thumbs up and hopefully more people will join. If you have questions, just pop them in the comments and I will do what I can to answer them. So I'm gonna show you the 2 designs that I've created. So there's this one here. I really like this one. I think I'm leaning towards this one, but I'll show you guys the other one that I have here. This is like a 4-leaf kind of design. It doesn't look symmetrical here. Hopefully when I do it on the dough, it'll look symmetrical. But do you guys have a preference? 1 or 2? 1 or 2? Pop it in the comments. Let's hear what you guys prefer. I will go with whatever you guys are interested in seeing. 1 or 2? Okay, Lorraine says 1. Chris says 2. 1, 2. Lots of people are interested in 2. This is 1. Okay, I'm seeing a slight weighting towards 1. Okay, all right, that's great. Thanks everyone for your feedback. I was leaning towards this one anyway. I can do this one next week maybe if you guys are still interested in that. Okay, another little tuck. It's already starting to splay. It's hot in here. Okay, so I'm gonna just dust with a little bit of rice flour. You can dust with rice flour, you can dust with cocoa powder. It's kind of, you know, however you want the contrast to be displayed with the score. You don't even have to dust it at all. This is like purely decorative. So up to you. If you have questions, like I said, pop them in the comments and I will try to read them. Sometimes it's a little bit challenging where I'm standing, but I will try to read them. So I've got my little sewing thread here. I'm going to start by going halfway. So I'm dividing this into 6. Try to make it as even as possible. I'm not always good at dividing into 6. Okay, good. All right, so now that I have that, I'm going to use my little skewer to draw out the design, the rest of the design. If you're enjoying this live, hit the little thumbs up. That would be great. It'll bring more people out. I'm going to bring out my little handy dandy cookie cutters. Sometimes it helps just to have that to make things kind of even, I guess. Okay. I think that looks about good. Okay. Would normal flour not give bigger contrast? No, I find rice flour is less likely to steam off than all-purpose. I've used both. But give it a try, experiment. I mean, all flours are slightly different, so maybe yours would offer a bit more contrast. So I'm just kind of gently sketching out the design. Already I can tell my pieces are slightly uneven. This one's a little bit larger. It's okay. Okay. Last one here. Oops. There we go. Like I said, this dough is in the freezer for over an hour. The higher your hydration, the longer you'll want to keep that in the freezer if you're doing a detailed score. I'm going to go ahead and take out these little lines here so they don't show up in the bake. And they will show up when it comes out of the oven, so you want to make sure you eliminate any lines that you put in there that you don't want to show up when you pull it out of the oven. Okay, so now we're going to do the second one. Second layer here, I'll show you the picture again. This is what I'm going for. Gluten-free flour also gives great contrast. Yeah, yeah, rice flour is gluten-free, so all right. Feel free to pop some questions in the question box. Doesn't have to be sourdough related. Oh, somebody was asking what my setup is here. This is just a placemat, and underneath the placemat is my little Wilton cake turner. It is a 1970s cake turner. It was my grandmother's. She used to do a lot of cake decorating. And this is just purely aesthetic. There's no function to the placemat. If you're enjoying this, give me a thumbs up. It'll bring more people out. Why in the freezer? If you want to do a decorative score, the decorative scores usually take a little bit of time. And if you don't put it in the freezer, your dough is going to splay. It's going to splay. It's just going to spread. It'll also be really difficult to score. Like you'll find the dough will drag. The blade will drag on the dough. So, I mean, I remember the first dough that I scored, I was just absolutely flabbergasted with how quickly it started to splay. So I did like a super fast wheat stock design. So it's up to you, depending on how detailed you want to go. Typically, I don't recommend freezing for more than an hour. If you're doing kind of like a medium hydration dough, like 70 to 75%, but at 80%, this absolutely needed that extra time. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and bring this down here. And I'm gonna take these lines out. There we go. And just draw in over here. We're going to do a 7-minute expansion score, which basically means that we'll do our detailed score before it goes in the oven, and then pull it out after 7 minutes. At 7 minutes, I find it's usually formed a bit of a skin, and that's kind of the texture that I want. I want that skin on the dough to make the expansion score a lot easier to do. And then I'll do the deeper score at that point, the expansion score. There. So it kind of looks like that, more or less. Okay. Why did you switch to live YouTube? I've said it before. Just because of the possibility of monetizing. It's not possible to monetize lives on Instagram. So, whereas YouTube you can. And this is my sourdough day. I'm taking this day away from my 9 to 5. So I do need to supplement that income. That's the reality. I know some of you prefer Instagram Live, and honestly, I do prefer the platform, like Instagram's platform, for lives, but the fact that YouTube allows me to monetize, it kind of trumps the platform functionality. Okay, starting there. We'll go to the second layer. Tried 7-minute score and my crust by then already popped. Oh, then maybe you need to do, maybe your oven's a lot hotter than mine. Maybe you need to drop it down to like 5 minutes. It really, it kind of depends on your oven, how hot it is. I find 7 minutes is perfect for me. Like I tried 5 minutes and it was too short, like the skin hadn't formed. It also depends, I guess on the temperature that you're baking it at. I preheat my oven to 490, and then when I put the dough in, I drop it down to 450 Fahrenheit, obviously. See, if this had not gone in the freezer, all of these cuts would be just completely opened up. I am very gently dragging the blade along the dough. I don't want to go too deep. I'll save the deep score for when I pull it out of the oven. So you don't want to apply much pressure really at all. Okay. Could you do a live scoring on a batard oval-shaped loaf in the future, please? Absolutely, yeah. So I have done them in the past. I think I did one last week with black cocoa powder, if I'm not mistaken. Kind of having trouble keeping track of what I've done. But I did a batard last week, I'm pretty sure. And I'm trying to alternate batard, boule, batard, boule. So next week I can maybe do a batard, if that's your preference. Okay, and I'm going to bring this all the way down here. I'm always surprised at the comments that I get, like, it takes too much time to do this, when really it doesn't take that much time at all. I think by the end of this it'll probably be like, you know, maybe 20 minutes. And I get a lot of joy from scoring my sourdough. I also just don't really understand why people are so fussed by what I'm doing. Okay, let's see if there are any questions. Always a pleasure to watch you work. Fun to learn a thing or two as well. Oh, good. All right. After I pop this in the oven, I will do a Q&A. So I'll go kind of face the camera and you guys can ask me questions until we get the dough out of the oven after 7 minutes. Okay. The thickness of my dough's skin. Oh, okay. All right. Let's see. I think I want to score. Trying to figure out if I should score lines down the middle here, if I should just leave that as is, or if I should do little wheat stalks or leaves or something. Feeling indecisive today. I think what I will do is maybe a little wheat stalk over here though. Okay, I've said it before and I'll say it again. I do not do well with blank space on my loaves. I need to fill it with something. You can tell the dough is already starting to warm up. If you just look at, you know, my deep wheat sheaf scores, it really opens up as I'm scoring it. So it's really coming to temperature. The dough is really starting to splay. Oh goodness. And here I thought I was filming on my other camera. Maybe I wasn't. All right. All right, I'm gonna take the scissors and I'll decide about the inside after I do a little bit of scissor work. I will go here. Dots, dots in the center, okay. Dots, 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 all right. You guys want some dots. Thank you for the feedback. Can certainly do some dots. Well, I'm really liking how this is turning out so far. I do find that when I sketch things out, my mind feels a little bit calmer when I'm scoring. I feel a little bit less anxiety. Maybe I should go back to drawing them out. When you do your 7-minute score, will you do the expansion score or do all the cuts again? So I'll pick a few spots in the dough where I will score it. You know, I won't do all the cuts. I find I have done a lot of cuts in the past with the 7-minute score, and I find it gets quite unwieldy the more that you do, and also the blade kind of gets a little bit you know, clogged with the dough. So yeah, no, I won't do all of the cuts again. should I do dots running along here maybe? From the points to the middle? Maybe I'll take these out. Oh, I like the way that looks. All right, that's nice. Let's put that there. What do you think? Should I do some more scissor work in here? I feel like yes. I think I will. Any more questions in there? Feel free to pop your questions in there. Oh, I'm gonna have to do an extra one in here. Oh well. I wasn't counting properly. Okay guys, I feel like this is splaying pretty hard. I think I need to get this in the oven stat. So, we're gonna pop it on their little tray here and get it in the oven. Bake for 7 minutes. And then, so I'm just doing a little filming here. And then I'll do the Q&A. Bear with me just a moment. All right. I don't know what I did, and I don't know how to switch it. Oh. All right. That scoring is done, and if you guys have some questions, pop them in the comment box here. Okay. Leaves in the center, petals like within the arches. Yeah, I could have done that. Maybe I'll do that next time. What does splaying mean? Like spreading, like if it's like spreading out. When I first turned out, the dough was quite kind of like taut and cold, but as it kind of came up to room temperature, it started to kind of spread more. You could see the dough was just like relaxing. What's my room temperature? Currently, it is 23.5 degrees Celsius, so it is warm. I mean, relatively. Sometimes I want to do pretty scoring, but then I see it took 20 minutes to do one loaf and I just do my single slash. Yeah, that's fair. I mean, it depends on what you want the result to be. I enjoy doing my scores, you know, I like that process. But if you just want that bread, single slash all the way. What oven do you use? Do you open bake? No, I don't open bake. I think I go over this in every one of my lives. I used to do an open bake back in 2020 when I first started baking sourdough, and it did not work. I tried to inoculate with steam. I put a tray with water in the bottom. I would put ice cubes in the bottom of my oven, but too much steam would bleed out the back of my oven. So the crust would form on the dough before it really rose to its full extent. So I got a Dutch oven. Shortly after that, I got a Forno Grande oven, and that's what is in my oven right now. And that's pretty much the only oven that I use for baking sourdough. Best way to control bursts in the design. Yeah, do the 7-minute score. Highly recommend that because you can really control where it expands with the 7-minute score. So I don't have a video on how to make starter, but if you go to Instagram, go to Real Clever Food. That content creator, her name is Christy. She has got a sourdough recipe that I've used in the past and it worked well. So highly recommend following her instructions. How did you make this dough? Your process, how many coil folds? So if you go to my YouTube, the long form videos, you will find my basic sourdough bread recipe. This dough, I increased the hydration to 80%, which I kind of wish I hadn't done that, but it is what it is. But my recipe on YouTube is a 72 to 75% hydration dough. So go follow the steps in that process. Do you depend on temperature reading from your oven, or do you use an oven thermometer? I don't use an oven thermometer. Probably should. I have one in there, but I don't often read it. I just preheat it, and whenever my oven screams at me that it's preheated, I just trust that it's at the right temperature. You're not reading my question and answering me? I don't. Which of your videos will help me learn how to make the starter? So I said, the starter recipe can be found on Real Clever Foods Instagram account. I don't have a recipe. What is a 7-minute score? A 7-minute score is where you do your detailed design, your detailed scoring design, pop the dough in the oven, bake it for about 5 to 7 minutes, then pull it out and do the deeper score after that. Do you use bread flour or all-purpose flour? So I use bread flour for making the dough and all-purpose for feeding my starter. Okay, I still have 2 minutes, and then we'll pull it out. Yesterday when I was shaping the dough, I did notice, again, it's the whole 80% hydration and very warm environment. It was proofing too quickly for me to get adequate kind of gluten development. And so when I poured it out to shape it, and when I did the pre-shape, I noticed that it was starting to break. So I don't think the gluten was properly developed for the amount of hydration, and I think it just, it also is a little bit overproofed, but that's okay. Send me some bread, if only. Sometimes my designs get lost and don't end up looking as detailed from the initial score. Should scoring be less shallow and a little more deep to control that? Yes, I mean, you can try applying different amounts of pressure to see what works best. If you want to do something really detailed, I recommend going shallower. But also, you know, maybe is it that your design is steaming off when you put it in the oven? Because that could also be an issue as well. Do you teach how to make sourdough bread online classes? No, I don't, but I do have my YouTube recipe, kind of walks you through the process. So you should be able to pop over to my long form videos and see my YouTube recipe over there. Okay, 36 seconds. Okay, started to watch your channel, good. How many minutes do you have to score when you freeze for 30 minutes? It really depends on the hydration of the dough. Like I felt like I didn't have a lot of time to score that one because it was a high hydration dough. If I had left it out for any longer, I think it would have been just completely flat. All right, we're gonna open the oven now and see. Okay, good. And you can see here that the skin has formed on the dough. Oof. will do the expansion score. I'm gonna get you guys set up again. Quite happy with how this looks. Okay. All right. I'm just setting up my camera here, recording the expansion score. So if you want, you can kind of dust your blade with a little bit of rice flour. It sometimes prevents the sticking. So I'm gonna go ahead and do a deeper score here. And there we go. Everyone in my family loved your maple oat porridge loaf. Made two. Thank you again for sharing. I'm so glad. I really liked that recipe. It turned out super well. You guys can find that recipe on my Instagram account. Okay, so there's number one, and we're gonna do another one as well. I'm trying to decide if I should do it here or here. Maybe I'll do it here. Oops. Just cut through that little bit. Okay. Perfect. So I'm just gonna come in here with the scissors and just try to pull these little corners out. And then around here. I just don't want them to stick and prevent any kind of nice rise. Sorry guys, you're probably just getting a really good view of my arm. And I'm right-handed after all. Okay, I think that's good. And we'll pop it back in the oven. It is so uneven. It's okay. Back in it goes. Okay. All right, friends. Okay, let's see if I've missed any questions here. Yeah, I'm from Canada. Yeah, I thought the design turned out really well. This will be my first time seeing a 7-minute score. Bake too many loaves to try this, I think. Yeah, it's not practical if you actually have a bakery. I do it because it works for me. I only do like 2 loaves at a time, and I do the detailed, intricate scores, so yeah. To control from steaming off design, should ice or water bath be added after 7-minute score? I don't inoculate with steam at all, ever. I find that when I do my expansion score, that seems to release enough steam. Up to you though. You can certainly try it. I found that whenever I introduced steam in whatever Dutch oven I used, like Forno or my Lodge Dutch ovens or my Challenger bread pan, it would consistently steam off the design. But the 7-minute score, I find you don't need to do inoculate with steam at all. Just find a pile of rocks on the steps. That's what happens when you have a 3-year-old and a 7-year-old, random piles of rocks. I don't have any fancy equipment. How can I make bread with no professional equipment? Do you have any alternatives that you recommend? Yeah, I mean, all you really need is a starter, flour, water, salt. You don't need a banneton. You can just use a regular bowl. I do recommend lining the bowl with a cotton or linen dish towel. You don't need a Dutch oven. You will need an oven to bake it, and a tray. And then you can introduce steam by, tossing some ice into the oven or onto the tray, or you don't even have to introduce steam. Have you ever had the dough touch the sides or the top of the forno? No. There was one time I was close, and I'm always a little bit nervous that it will, but it never does, even when I get a really good rise out of my doughs. Have you used wood pulp bannetons? No, I haven't actually. What are the sizes of your loaves? What size banneton do you use? So my loaves are, I think, 800 to 900 grams. I use like a 9-inch oval banneton, or I think a 10-inch round banneton. Why you like making sourdough? It's natural and very entertaining. Oh, I just enjoy it. I find it very therapeutic. It's a fun little hobby for me. Thank you for answering my questions. Love the score. You're my favorite Instagram bread score designer. And recipes are free. Yes, they are. What's the significance of the linen cloth in the bowl, please? So it doesn't get like really wet. It kind of absorbs a little bit of that extra moisture. Steam off the design. Are you referring to the lines in the flour, or do you mean the bread expanding to the point the cuts becomes? No, I mean, like the lines, like the flour just kind of like disappears. It just steams off. You can't even see the design anymore. Is that weight you mentioned before or after bake? Before. If you're enjoying this session, give me the little thumbs up. I think you have to tap the little 3 dots maybe to do a thumbs up. I don't know. This whole YouTube situation is very unfamiliar to me. But if you're enjoying it, give me a thumbs up, and hopefully it'll bring some more people in. Continue to pop your questions in. We've got, another 15 or so minutes before the dough is baked, and I'll be able to show you guys. Let's take a look. Let's see. Yeah. You have to hide the chat with a new interface. Yeah, I don't know. I should know more, but I really don't. Okay. Let's see some more questions. I don't really feel like doing a full-on monologue here, so I prefer to answer your questions. Anything about sourdough bread? Or anything at all? So for those of you that are just joining, I just did a live sourdough scoring session, and it is now in the oven. We are waiting for it to finish baking. After this, I'm going to uncover the forno and move the tray out of the forno and into the main oven part, and that'll make a nice crust. You can only do 1 thumbs up, so after that you can only get hearts. Okay, good to know. I don't know any of this. Okay. If you sing Euro Papa or Luftballon, I will subscribe. Absolutely not. Definitely not. No, I'm not going to do that. I am not going to sing. I have thrown away 4 starters in 3 months. I'm new to this, so I'm trying to learn. Sorry about the linen question. No worries. Hey. I will answer any and all questions that I can. How do you maintain your starter? In the fridge at all? Yes. My starter spends the majority of the time in the fridge. I feed it usually on Friday or Saturday night. I do like a bulk feed. And the next morning I use whatever I need of the starter. And then while the starter is still at peak, I just pop it in the fridge and you can use it for a week. I have a Rofco oven. Would it be better to not use steam? No, I think you should use steam with your Rofco. Like those are the big kind of like micro bakery, I mean, those are like the micro bakery ovens where you can bake like 16 loaves or something. I think you should probably use steam. What to do about score lines that do become smooth? Like you mean they expand so you can't see them? Is that what you mean? Can you clarify? Proofing can be tricky. How do you suggest we tell when our bread is nicely proofed and not yet over? I mean, it kind of, it's a matter of just like knowing your dough. I usually go, I think, I believe you are maybe a micro bakery or like an actual baker. I usually go by dough kind of like doubling or slightly less than doubling, and kind of being able to see kind of larger bubbles on the surface of the dough, and then when you turn it out, you'll kind of see smaller bubbles on the bottom of the dough. Yeah, that's how I tell. I can also just tell by the texture and how the dough feels, so it's a lot of practice too. Is there a way to make bread without yeast? Yes, I mean using sourdough starter for sure. That's what I do. I mean there is ambient yeast in it, ambient yeast and bacteria. Oh, thank you for that little gift there, Cassie420. That's very sweet of you. Really appreciate it. Do you ever save and add more of the hooch to make your dough extra sour? No. I like a mild loaf. I don't like it super sour. If I did want it super sour, I would use less starter and do a longer fridge proof. Hello, this is not live. Yes, it is. When the score design expands, it almost gets lost because it smoothed out the surface of the bread. Deeper scores. I don't do deeper scores for my like intricate designs. I do like really fine lines, like I'm barely putting any pressure, and I, dust with rice flour. I don't seem to have an issue with the lines going smooth. You can make soda bread with baking soda. Yes, that's another alternative, yeah. Have you ever done a cold bulk proof? No. No, I have not. That would take a long time. Have you? Has it worked? I think it needs to be bulked like at room temperature for a period of time in order to get it, like adequately proofed. Okay. Any other questions? I hope you guys are enjoying my live. I really am glad to have you join me on these scoring sessions. Sourdough discard in recipes. Are they saying use it ripe or unripe discard? This always confuses me. When I use sourdough discard, I generally like it to be ripe. Like I don't want to use like a really sour old discard because that'll just really impact the flavor of whatever I'm baking. So I kind of use more of a ripe discard. That's my personal preference. I think it's up to you. Favorite inclusions? Well, gosh, that maple oat porridge dough. That was really good. I like flax seeds, poppy seeds. I don't do a lot of inclusions. I should, I guess. First at room temp with stretch and fold or coil, and then continue in fridge. Yeah, so my recipe is like 4 stretch and folds or coil folds over the course of like 4 hours. Then I kind of continue proofing it until it's about double in size. And then I shape it and put it in the fridge. So there is some time that it spends in the fridge. How long does discard last? I wouldn't use it beyond 2 weeks. It'll be super sour at 2 weeks. It's okay to throw away some stuff. People seem to go nuts when they first start. It's true. I mean, when you first start making sourdough, it's like, what do I do with all this discard? But you can use it to bake. And then you can get into a feeding regime where you don't have a lot of discard, which is what I typically do. I bulk 5 hours at my room temp with coil folds and finish bulking in the fridge for 8 hours. Okay, so then you shape it after it has been in the fridge. That's interesting. I'm getting to learn so much of sourdough. I don't even bake, but this is nice. I try something. Well, thanks for joining. How do you handle a dough made with weaker flours? Lower the hydration, for sure. It'll just be a soupy mess. If you're using like all-purpose flour, it can be really difficult. So yeah, lower the hydration. Make pancakes. Yeah, that's certainly an option. What's your usual sourdough schedule? I've got a recipe on my YouTube. Go check it. Walks you through it. Okay, guys. It's been 14 minutes. So what I am going to do is I'm going to show you what the dough looks like right now, and then I'm probably going to conclude my live. So if you have any final questions, just pop them in the question box now while I show you my loaf. Oh, it's so hot. It feels too hot to be baking. Ooh, look at that. Ooh, look how pretty. Isn't that nice? I don't think I got as much rise as I could have gotten out of it, but it's all good. Looks delicious. Pop it back in there. It's gonna stay in there for another 10 minutes, and then I'm gonna uncover it and put it in the main part of the oven. So if you guys have any questions, ask them now. Otherwise, I will conclude in about a minute. Take it out of the fridge, let it warm up a bit, shape, and back in the fridge overnight. That's interesting. That's a really interesting schedule. Okay. Let's see. Yeah, I thought the design turned out really well. I love that Dutch oven. I must have one. It's a good one. It's my favorite. It's the only one I bake sourdough with. I don't know why, but I always find my boules don't rise as much as my batards. Are you like getting some good tension when you're shaping it? Because if you're not getting really good tension, you're not going to get a great rise. You look like our language teacher. Oh, thank you. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining, everyone. I will try to do another live next week, maybe on Monday or Tuesday. I'll let you know. Would you bring that bread on a date? I would be impressed. I never thought about it before. Sure, why not? If somebody gifted me bread, I'd be pretty happy. Yeah. All right. Bye, all. Thanks.